So thank you very much for your kind presentation, Mr. Chairman, and ladies and gentlemen. So actually, as you can see, my topic is quite general. So I'm speaking about actions concerning the mitigation, and because I'm from the Ministry of the Environment, I'm going to speak pretty much about the legislation itself. And actually, I'm going to say something first, just for the background. So I'm speaking about the noise impact itself. Why do we need some mitigations for noise? And some policy, what is the status of will to mitigate noise? Legislation, regulations, that sort of things. And then I do have two examples actually concerning mitigation. As you know, it's a very large topic. So I'm going to take one which is quite global example, quite global approach. Another one which is local and concerning actually snowmobiles. So it's pretty exotic theme probably for some of you. But also that actually is connected to the global aspect in that way that we have a directive for the outdoor noise equipment, and actually snowmobiles is one equipment group in that directive. Some information for inhabitants, how do we try to serve citizens, and what sort of, how do we deliver information to citizens, and some conclusions then. So actually 1/6 of Finnish lives in noise areas, and that actually it means something like from 800 to 900,000 people. And when we are speaking about noise areas, I just mean areas where the average daily sound pressure levels exceed 55 decibel. So it's LAQ, I'm speaking about the LAQ values. And 90% of those peoples lives nearby roads and streets. So the huge amount of those people exposed to noise, they are just living in it's caused actually from traffic or transportation noise. And it's quite often that, and in urban areas, those LAQ values can be even 70 decibels, and 65 decibels is very, very common value. We have economical impacts, and actually these numbers are based on the Green Paper of European Commission, and for the and it's published something like 1996, and it's from the future noise policy of European Commission. And as you can see, it's something like 0.2 to 2% of the gross domestic product. The harm from noise is coming from the noise. And if you think about Finland, it's here. 2008, the gross domestic product was something like 185 billion euros. It means that it's the cost from noise is something like maybe 1 billion euro, something like that. And from where the cost comes from, it's basically we have restrictions to the land using, we have those health issues, lost working days, we need to have proper sound insulation for building facades and so on. And of course we have to be careful with these numbers. So these are not strict values, but they just are able to show you something about what we are speaking about economically. So we will have actually a common will to mitigate noise. So in many of our other ministries, as Ministry of the Environment, they have in their own environmental strategies the noise one of the key questions. For example, Ministry of Transportation and Communications. Noise is very important thing. And of course drivers, as I told earlier, and has been presented here, the health issue is very, very important, as well as well-being. Also, from the environmental impact, if you think about that, we also want to have some sort of low noise living environment. We also have a government resolution about that matter, and we really want to reduce the number of people exposed to noise. And actually, our target is something like 20% of those people to the 2020 compared to the level at 2003. And that means something like, let's say, 180,000 to 190,000 people. It's influence to their living environment. And we will focus first to those areas where sound pressure levels, LAQ values, are something like 65 decibel or they are densely populated area. So something about legislation. So Environmental Protection Act is actually the principal piece of legislation concerning the noise abatement in Finland. And in this act, we have a permission system, for example, so that if people or industry or maybe road keepers, that sort of operators, if they think that their actions produce noise, they need to have a permission for it. And as you can see here, the Act also defines noise as an emission. And it means that you can compare it to for example, to exhaust gases from industry, or, for example, wastewater to the soil. So it's pretty similar form of pollution. And as you can see here, it also says that it may cause environmental pollution. So you really need to anticipate that if the noise is produced, you have to know it beforehand. You have to have enough information and knowledge about the impacts of the actions. We have here some general principles, and prevention, it's same as anticipation here. So minimizing harmful impacts is one thing. Caution and care, best available technology, as well as best environmental practices have to be used. And also polluter pays principle. So if, for example, road keeper and design a new road or street, they have to take care also the cost caused by noise abatement. And this Environmental Protection Act is actually one where the Environmental Noise Directive is actually the amendments from that directive they are implemented to that act. Yeah. So we have also some other decrees where we have the details from the Environmental Noise Directive, as well as another decree where we have those details from noise emission levels from equipment for outdoor use. So based on those acts, we have also guidelines for sound pressure levels or noise levels outdoors as well as indoors. And they guide the land use plans and traffic planning, as well as even construction sites which are planned. Another quite important act concerning noise and noise abatement is Land Use and Building Act. And land use, it consists system where you or regulations for land using. So if you would like to have a building in noisy area, in land use plan you have a regulation, for example, for building facade, what is the sound insulation target there. And we do also have in that act the Finnish building code, and it includes the sound insulation values between dwellings and airport sound insulation, as well as impact on sound insulation, and also sound coming from technical equipment which are used in buildings. There is several other acts as well, like Health Protection Act concerning neighborhood relations, Aviation Act, and that sort of acts which have some part concerning noise. So it's very, very wide area where you are able to find those aspects. So how do we try to administrate the environmental noise? We have 3 levels. We have a ministry level, then we have a permit and supervisory authorities, and then operators. And at ministry levels, we try to cooperate pretty much with other ministries which are responsible, for example, for health and transportation. And of course, in our responsibility is to influence the noise policy in Europe, as well as implement European legislation in our own national legislation. We give guidelines, norms, and we are responsible for the general development. The whole idea is actually that why do we have that permit and supervisory authorities is that we try to guide to industry, roadkeepers, so on, so that they do those actions concerning noise which are under those, for example, Environmental Protection Act. So that's why we have this sort of levels. And operators, they need to do those noise mitigation actions. And as I told, they need to have a sufficient knowledge about the situation concerning noise. Okay, this was actually background, and now we go to the mitigation of environmental noise. So a few principles, and which we can see in our legislation and actually also in European legislation concerning noise. So we have to think about environmental impact as well as other impacts, first of all. And the first thing is, of course, is to influence to the noise source. And that's main idea, what we want to do. Second one is just to influence to the propagation of the sound, just by using, for example, noise barriers and so on. Restrictions in utilization, like to have some time intervals, time periods where those sound sources or noise activities can be used, and then if we are not able to do nothing else, we have our rules for example, building facades, the sound insulation. Sound insulation values from them. If you just look at this figure here, in this horizontal level, we can see the acoustic phenomena. Here is the emission, sound radiation of sound sources, and here we can see the diminishing disturbances, and then the control. And quite often the emission, they are restricted by just by directives, or sometimes also we do use our national limit values for some sort of sources. But quite often they are global, and that's very good thing, because we are not able to influence to big manufacturers as a member state, but together we can influence future European noise policy, and that way we are able to influence the noise sources. Transmission path of sound, it's usually they are local actions, they are noise barriers and that sort of things, and also concerning land use planning. So we are able to have enough distance to noise between noise sources and those areas we want to protect from noise. And that concerns also the emission part. We have legislation, we have guidelines, and we try to use them as well as technical noise abatement. Okay, then we have the first example here. And this actually concerns directive on environmental noise, which is quite common with those people which are dealing with authorities nowadays. So we have had already the first stage of to implement the directive, and second phase is just coming quite soon. And demands from the directive are strategic noise maps and as well as noise abatement plans. And they concern agglomerations as well as transport facilities and airports. And we need to we have actually allocated the competent authorities which are responsible to do those noise maps as well as action plans. And together with them, we try to do good plans also after those action plans, so that we are able to put them into practice if possible. So the strategic noise maps, they are not, of course, they are not the only maps or noise mapping with what we are doing. And because of that, however, we use our earlier calculation methods, so we have had to do some changes for them. For example, concerning the noise indicator, the positions where we do those calculations, and that sort of things. And other actions have been just to implement the requirements of directive to our own national law. One thing has also been that because of those new requirements, we have produced a lot of guides, different type of information for the operators as well as local authorities. So the first stage of mapping, it's concerned Helsinki and its surrounding. So it's pretty much similar situation here in Tallinn. So we had only one town, one big city, and some public roads, something like 500 kilometers. 2 airports, Helsinki-Vantaa as well as Helsinki-Malmi airports, and not too much actually railway tracks, only something like 30 kilometers in our first stage. But at the second stage, we are going to have 5 more cities, and the work is going on right now. The public road is something like 3 times compared to the first phase. And also the railway, we need to have something like, it's actually unsure about the kilometers, but it's multiple times compared to that of the first round. As you can see here is noise map from city of Helsinki. And it's quite easily seen from here what is the actually main problem concerning noise and especially concerning main people exposed to noise. It's not very well, you are not able to see quite well from this figure the building facades nearby the roads or streets, but however they have been calculated as well, and from these numbers we are able to find out the number of people exposed to noise and as well as those noise areas. This is one figure of the noise abatement project card. And when we do those mappings, of local authorities or operators do those local mappings, we are able to find out and have a plan how to proceed in future concerning noise abatement. So, for example, in this example, they have used mainly noise barriers, but there exist, of course, also other ways to reduce noise, like road surfaces, silent road surfaces, and so on. Okay, so I will go to my next example, and it now concerns snowmobiles. And its influence is not as big as usual transportation, but of course we do have recreation areas. People have their holiday homes nearby there. People want to enjoy of the silence of the nature. So in that way it's very important to keep the silence. It's also important in that way that it's not only it's leisure driving or hobby driving. We do have also professionals in Nordic countries which use snowmobiles. So they are veterinarians, medical doctors, and so on. Also, life saving is one very important thing to use snowballs. There exist even reindeer herders who need to use those equipment. Okay, so we have our Act on Off-Road Vehicles, and it says there that it's not allowed to use those equipment without the permission of landowner. And it's quite clearly said you are not able to drive the snowmobile everywhere. And because of that, we have our routes for them, quite specific routes, and that way we are trying to get rid of the noise problem itself. We also have a decree concerning the limit values for noise, and they are just restrict the emission values of noise emission values of snowmobiles, and also guidelines what sort of sound pressure levels we are able to, or what we do not want that they would be exceeded in environment. Those snowmobiles are also registered in Finland. So we know how many do we have there. It's something like 100,000, little bit more than 100,000 snowmobiles. And we also have data concerning the noise emission of them. So we are able to, for example, we are able to model or have noise maps. We have a source data for sound calculation programs, and in that way we are able to plan routes for that vehicle group. And of course, because we don't want that the exhaust gases spoil the soil, it's also for that reason that we have those those specific routes for snowmobiles. And it's actually something like 7,000 kilometers where you can drive with snowmobile. There exists traffic guidance and control, speed limits, for example, and the noise emission is, as I said, it's quite well regulated, and it's quite well known what sort of influence the noise emission has. There have been several studies concerning that subject also, and different kind of impacts to people, societies, of course environmental impacts, impacts to trade, and that sort of things. And it has been very, very important because, as I told you, snowmobiles is nowadays it has been proposed as one equipment group in directive, and in that way that we have prepared quite well concerning the environmental impacts. We have been able to deliver also something to the Commission about that matter. Okay, then let's speak something about the information to inhabitants. So we have all those three actors actually here. So ministry and permit and supervisory authorities as well as operators. And ministry, they are able to provide legislation databases so that people can just look at what sort of legislation you have, and also instructions books, as was told actually here also. Permit and supervisory authorities, they deliver databases about noise maps, as well as registers of vehicles and their noise emissions. And then operators, they produce the noise maps itself, or they use consultants to get them. And they also monitor the noise situation so that data is available. They also organize meetings for citizens, and in that way try to solve problems concerning noise. Usually all that material or information is our own websites, so they are free of charge. People are able to get it from there. And there exists also general information about noise. And that actually, yes, it's the same thing to some other authorities, supervisory authorities and permission authorities. So they have their own websites, and we try to connect them in that way that the information it's really easily you are able to find out the information you need as easily as possible. And we have also actually thought about social media, and some authorities, they already use these possibilities, but for us it's quite new still, and we just look at those possibilities. Okay, then to the conclusions. So we know that noise is very important environmental problem, and which should be solved. And we have two ways we can globally influence to it by influencing future European noise policy, and of course locally. it's a very challenging task because it has so many other impacts as well. Impacts to trade, it costs pretty much, and that sort of things. We have to collect information and keep the information available public to citizens so that we can cooperate as well as possible. And we also have to remember that the main thing is just to reduce the risks, health risks caused by noise. That's the main topic. But we do also have some other challenges concerning environment quality and also acoustic quality of it. So in our legislation, we try to have some sort of a total planning, total design for the built environment, and I think that the acoustic quality is very, very important in that concept. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ari. And does anyone have some questions? Kas kellelgi on küsimusi Arile?
Mis pidi eesti keeles, inglise keeles mõlemat?
Jaa, võib eesti keeles, siis üks hetk me võtame.
Ja, Toomas Vallo, Elle. I have a few questions actually. Kas ma saan need kõik korraga või üks haaval?
Küsige üks haaval võib-olla siis.
Ja. Selles mõttes, et ma annan vahepeal kellelegi teisele, kui kellelgi on. I have a question on this noise of these motor sledges. And you have regulation on this. The very practical question, have you used in any places also the abatement measures, the noise walls for those vehicles?
Yeah. So your question concerns road surfaces?
No, for those snowmobiles. Snowmobiles, yes.
Okay, yes. And
have the abatement measures been used as well? So I mean close to the built areas, also the walls, for example.
Yes, right. Yes, actually, yes. Yes, so we have a different kind of measurements for them nearby built environment as well as other areas. And there exist also standards for the noise emission of that equipment group. So we are able to find out.
Yes, but I mean the walls. Have you built the walls actually against the noise of snowmobiles, for example?
Sorry. Yes, actually, no, we don't have that sort of...
Okay, selection of routes only, I understood, yeah?
Yes.
Then the next question is, those snowmobiles are one source of that kind of emissions. Yeah. Also, have you made any planning or any measures on other that type of noise sources, like, I mean, scooters, speedboats, because you have quite a number of waterways as well, and that noise on water travels quite long distances.
Yes. Actually, yes, I think that the first question concerns the ATVs or terrain vehicles, yeah. So we had done actually measurements for some part of those vehicles, but not all of them. And that is one problem, because it's that group is not in the directive either. And it's one important question to how to solve that problem. There exist so many different type of ATVs, and some of them are registered, and emission measurements have been carried out from them, but not all of them.
And my final question at the moment is, How far have you gone with the silent areas? I know in some places it has been discussed in Finland. There has been some plans developed, but for example, for Helsinki or those regions, populated regions, the silent areas, how to protect those. So I mean, so far it's the approach in plenty of countries, as in Estonia and Finland and most of European countries, it's protecting against specific sources like snowmobiles, for jetties, from road transport, for rail, but areas as such to keep the certain level there, which is one aim of the noise directive.
Yes.
So can you comment on what's development there?
Yeah, actually there exist some studies concerning that quite areas, and they have been specified in some way, but not very properly. And actually I think that this is also a problem concerning the directive itself. And as far as I have understood, they want to specify it much more strictly also in the directive itself, or at least they want to give us some guidelines concerning it. So I think that if you have only some sort of limit or target values for quiet areas, it's maybe not a good idea. I think that it would be good to have some other quality aspects for those areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kas on veel küsimusi Arile? Ja, seal.
Margus Mihkelsoo, Terviseamet. Ja küsimus oleks selline, milliseid müra arvutusmeetodeid kavatseb Soome kasutada uuel müra strateegilise kaardistamise ringil? See on 2012. aastal. Kas soovituslikke meetodeid või mingid muid meetodeid?
Yes, thank you for your question. Actually, we are going to use a similar methods as we have used on the first round. So it's kind of modified Nordic calculation method. And one reason for that is that the Knossos method is not ready, as you probably know. And so the Knossos method is going to be used on the third round. But we are going to use the same method as what we have used in the first phase of the implementation of directive.
On kellelgi veel küsimusi? Ja, siit samast teist.
Thank you. Jaan Vahtla, Estonia igapäevane government. Kes finantseerib kaardistamise? Kas kaardistamine toimub ministeeriumi tasandil, riigieelarve tasandil või siis ettevõtjate tasandil?
Yes, thank you. Yes, actually, the costs are paid by the operators or the cities. So it's that is the level, not on the for example in government budget.
Veel küsimusi? Paistab, et ei ole, aga siis teeme esinejale veel kord ühe aplausi.